This no-knead crusty sourdough bread recipe is easily mixed up in 5 minutes. Then you let it rest for an hour, 40 minutes, and then refrigerate it. Then for the next 2 weeks, you just take out what you need, let it rise again, and bake your wonderful sourdough bread. And if you don't even want to use it the next 2 weeks, just freeze it for later use.
Welcome to Homemade Cooking in Texas. I'm Carolyn Gibson from Dogwood Gardens, where homemade cooking is surprisingly easy, healthier for you and your family, saves money, and tastes great. Come join me today as I share my favorite recipes, and I hope they will become your favorite recipes. And don't forget, like and subscribe to my channel.
This recipe is a master recipe for the no-knead sourdough bread called a Boule bread or the classic artisan round bread. It has no fat or oil of any sort and makes a very crusty crust. This recipe is from the book Artisan Bread in 5 Minutes a Day. Now I will have a link in the description bar to the book. Now in this video I will be making the loaf version instead of the round bread. Now throughout the rest of the video I will call it the crusty sourdough bread recipe. In another video I will be making a soft crust sourdough bread.
This is the no-knead Boule master recipe. Now I'm starting with water. This is 3 cups of lukewarm water. Now that's water that is somewhere between 100 and 105. Now I'm adding a tablespoon and a half of kosher coarse salt and 1½ tablespoons of yeast, which would be 2 packets. I'm just going to stir that up a little bit, not a whole lot. And then I'm adding 6½ cups of all-purpose unbleached flour. Now you could do this all by hand if you were young enough and strong enough. I'm 70, so I really need the help of this KitchenAid heavy-duty mixer. Now I've got the dough hook on, and I'm going to put my splash guard on. I'm going to start it out at, well, I'm going to shut that. Now I'm going to start it out at 1, just to kind of get it going. Notice how quiet it is. And I'm going to go up to 2. And according to the KitchenAid directions, that's as far high as you go with the dough hook. Okay, that did not take very long. I'm going to turn my mixer off. Just kind of get some of this dough off the hook. Now I've got a large bowl to put it in. All I'm going to do is put this in the bowl. I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to let it set for about 2 hours. Now if I get busy and have something else to do, if it's not till 5, and if it goes 4 or 5 hours, well that's all right, because this is not a particular recipe. Now I'm going to put the lid on it. I don't want it to be a tight lid. And just let it set, and then in 2 hours, or a little more maybe, it's going to rise all the way to the top, and then it's going to deflate, and then I'll be ready to put it in the refrigerator.
Okay, you're going to place it in a large bowl and cover it. You're going to let it set at room temperature. Now you're going to let it rise for at least 2 hours. 4 to 5 hours is okay. Then it's going to deflate or flatten out on the top. Then you're going to cover it and refrigerate it at least 3 hours. Overnight is even better, and it will keep the refrigerator for 2 weeks.
On this no-knead recipe, I have greased my loaf pan, and now I'm going to sprinkle a little flour on my work area. I put down some parchment paper just to make the cleanup easy, and I've put water on the table to make it all stick, to keep the paper from lifting up. Okay, I've had my dough in the refrigerator about a week. This particular recipe will stay good in the refrigerator for about 2 weeks. Okay, now I'm going to see my dough in here. I'm going to sprinkle a little flour just so I can get get the dough out. And I'm aiming for maybe a cantaloupe size, or about 1.5 pounds of dough. Okay. Now, depending on how big your cantaloupes are. I'll put that back up. Okay, now I'm just going to put a little flour on it just to keep it from sticking to my hands. And I'm doing what is cloaking. It's not kneading. I'm just pulling it down and going underneath it. And I'm just going to get enough flour on my hands to elongate this. I don't want to add more flour to the dough. I'm just keeping it sticking to my hands. I'm just elongating it. It'll fit in my pan. Okay, now I think that's about the size of my pan. I'm just going to put it in there. And I'm just going to let it set for 1 hour and 40 minutes. Now I want to set my timer for about 1 hour and 30 minutes so I can come and preheat my oven. Depending on your oven, it may take 5 minutes, may take 10 minutes. And we'll be back in 1 hour and 40 minutes. My bread has set for 1 hour and 40 minutes. You can see what it looks like. Now I'm going to sprinkle some more flour on it. And I'm going to slash the top with this knife. And this flour is to just keep it from sticking to the knife. Now in my oven at home, I would put a rack on the lowest rack and put a cup of warm water into the tray, into the broiler tray. But this broiler oven is too small to do that. So I'm going to put my water in this broiler tray and put my pan on top of that, and hopefully it's going to work out, and then I will put it in my 450 degree oven. Now even the recipe called for it to bake for 35 minutes, I'm checking it after 25 to see how it looks. And because I've put the loaf pan inside a pan of water, I need to be really, really careful. Now when you tap it, it sounds pretty hollow. So let's try the thermometer and see. I'm looking for 180 degrees. Well, that is a crusty loaf. Okay, it's stopping at 160, so I'm going to go for another 5 minutes. I'll let this bake another 5 minutes. It's going to be a total of 30 minutes. I'm going to take it out of the oven and test it once more to see if it's done. It's well past the 180 mark. In fact, it's going all the way up to 190. So I'm going to take this out. Got a few flour crumbs there. And I'm going to let this completely cool. You do home baked bread, you do not cut it while it's warm. I know it smells wonderful, you want to try it out, but you really need to wait till it completely cools off, or it may become gummy inside. Now I am going to just kind of turn this over, and we'll let this cool at least a couple of hours. We've let this cool, and now we're ready to slice it and try it out. Now you can hear this crispy crust. But it's still soft enough. It still has that chewy texture, but it's not so tough you can't eat it. Now what's great about this bread recipe, if I don't think I'm going to use it within the next 2 weeks, I can put it in the freezer until I'm ready to use it again. So I'm going to take my freezer bag and I want to mark it which bread this is, so I'll know. And I know this is the Boule, the basic Boule recipe. And I'm going to mark today's date so I'll know about how old it is. And just kind of put it on my bag. Now I'm ready to gather it up and put it in the freezer. I'm going to kind of mash it flat so that way when I get ready to thaw it out, it's going to thaw out much faster than if I put it in a big ball.
Now, not everyone likes a crusty crust, especially those that are older and young children. My next video will be a soft crust sourdough bread. Thank you so much for joining me today at Homemade Cooking in Texas. These are my favorite recipes, and I hope they will become yours. Now, if you enjoy these recipes, please like and subscribe so you can see more of these type recipes. We have been making a full-time living here on our organic farm since 1991. We need your support to continue our small family farm by liking and subscribing to our channel. Thank you so much.